Okay, so welcome to our first training. It is August 29th, and today we are going to be talking about using Paragon effectively. So we're going to go through what's in Paragon, using the tax system, and doing searches for buyers and sellers. So please feel free to ask questions, and we'll get started. So this is the new login screen for Paragon. Obviously, it's everybody's favorite. So go in. Obviously, remember that you can't save your password anymore, which is not helpful when you don't log in correctly. Oh, I think I'm doing it wrong. Don't be like me. Totally going to edit that out. There we go. All right. So this is my home screen for Paragon. Couple things before we get into actually doing a buyer and a seller search. Places with really good information. The MLS documents. I don't know if anybody's actually looked at this, but in here you have folders with a whole bunch of documents. Granted, we also use zip form to do contracts and things like that. But if you ever need something on the fly, need to print something, this is a really nice, easy way to get it. You have the agency disclosure. And remember, there is one for landlords and as well as buyers and sellers. You also have all your listing forms, MLS documents, rules and regulations, buyer broker. Is the plastic melting? We can pull the plastic off of this. And star applications, which is really helpful for your buyers. What else that's fun in here? Showing time instructions to do things. It has a lot of information. So feel free to always go in here and check. But if you ever have any questions, you can always ask. Other fun things. Here's where you set all your preferences. Resources. So if you want to know how you were doing for the year, you can do your own statistical reporting, which is fun. Links here. So if you have to renew zip form, that's all in here. Membership, you can look up other agents. Tax. So this is the tax search. I'm hoping that everybody is familiar with CRS, which is a lot more powerful than Reinsight, which is what we used to have. So, and you can look up a whole bunch of different properties and whatnot, and we'll go over a little bit more of that later. So back into Paragon. You can also set up all of your searches, whether it's your quick search, whether it's your single family search, and we're going to go over all this as well, with as many forms, fields as you want, or you can change the widget for the quick search. I don't know if you knew you could do this and add different things to it if there's something that you always search by always hitting that little gear. So if I wanted to add acreage, just hit the little gear, or click on acres, add it, hit apply. And then it'll pop right back up here and that'll save automatically. Okay. So I'm going to start with buyers. So I have a couple of test searches, but like I said, if anybody has a search that they're really interested in learning how to do or more about, like a land search, we'll do vacant land as well. Or if you were doing a search for a buyer recently and we're like, you know what, I wasn't finding anything when I searched this way, how would you search? Write them down, let me know, and we can go through it. So the one that I have right now is, I'm going to pretend that I have a buyer that is looking in Clifton Park, and I'm going to have them look for a townhome. Okay, and I'm going to have them look for a townhome up to $250,000. Okay. Now, again, a couple things about the single family screen. This is my default. It probably looks different from yours. I've customized this. Things I've added to it: above ground square footage. I added acres, total taxes, garage spaces, and a few other things. So remember, in order to do that, just hit the customize, hit fields, and then you can move anything over here that you want, hit apply, and that will save every time you hit apply. All right, so we're looking here in status, always active when you're doing a search for buyers. Okay, sub area. So there's not many times that I actually use sub area. There are specific instances where it is helpful. For instance, when you have somebody that isn't governed by school districts, sometimes sub area is nice. If I were to do a search, somebody says, I just want to be in Saratoga County. I don't care what school district. Sub area is a really nice way to search that because you can just hit 300 for Saratoga County, and it works that way. So we can do a couple of examples. Say this buyer only wanted to search, they wanted to do townhome in southern Saratoga County, which will be pretty much anywhere from South Glens Falls south, and they didn't care about school district. You can do that and then hit townhome under your style. Again, our price point up here, we said was 250,000. Always have it recalculate by searching. And so that's all the townhomes available under 250 in southern Saratoga that's not governed by school district. Okay, so that's a nice way to do that. But most people in our area really are going to be governed by school district. It's a very popular thing for not only people moving up and down, but people interested in maintaining resale values since school district governs so much. I tend to default to school district as my boundary search. It also tends to be, because New York State likes to be so weird about zip code boundaries versus school districts versus counties versus, townships. For example, my house is located in town of Glenville, Burnt Hill Schools, which is a Saratoga County school district, and county of Schenectady. So if somebody wants to search in Glenville, most people aren't searching in Glenville. They're probably, because Glenville also encompasses both Scotia Glenville, Niskayuna schools, or Burnt Hill schools. So really, New York State's a little odd that way, and I think that's why we tend to be governed so much by school district. So we're going to search in Chen schools up to 250,000, and we have townhomes. Okay, so let's take a look at our search. I always organize by list price, which is defaulted. Okay, by clicking on any one of these, I think everybody should know this, but clicking on any one of these can organize it. So if I want to organize it by the smallest to largest square footage, just click on the header and it reorganizes. But list price is usually what we do. And then this is where you can start to scroll through and look at things. And again, this results page you can also customize by going up here and customizing the fields, and it will save. One thing we also might want to do, how many times have you guys gone and done a search, sent out listings to buyers? They say, oh, that one looks great, I want to take a look at it. You go to schedule a showing and realize that it's active, but property under contract. How annoying is that, right? And then they're not accepting searches anymore, or they're not accepting.
I've actually had it more where it still says active, but it really is under contract, and I haven't changed it yet. Yep.
Welcome to the gripe of all real estate agents ever. But technically that's against MLS rules, so we should not be doing that. Little known fact, it's also against MLS rules to have it active if you are no longer showing it, even if a check is not in hand. The whole, we're just waiting for the check thing to have a valid contract is a brokerage rule, and it's not allowed according to our MLS. So our MLS states if you are no longer showing the property, you may not list it as active, not even active under contract. If it is active with property under contract, the sellers must be requiring or allowing showings. If there are no showings allowed, that's actually illegal according to our MLS rules, and you can get fined.
I've had it happen multiple times with.
Mm-hmm. A lot of agents, and again, we do things the right way. We do things according to the rules. There are a lot of misinformed agents out there that are not taught. So, we can politely educate if it is something that happens over and over again. But it is very clear in our MLS rules, if the property is listed as active, it must be shown. Property under contract is only when it's being shown for backup offers only. Sometimes you will also see that it's very common to see active property under contract for bank owned properties, because often, or short sales, often when they have an offer into the bank, they still want to be showing it. And again, that's a situation where it's backup offers only. So anyway, when you're doing a search for your buyers, if you want to avoid that, one thing that you can do is go into the features here and must not have.
Where was features? I'm sorry, I missed
That's
it.
okay. We can go back. Features is down here. It's
Okay.
underneath style. And again, everybody's is going to be different. Paragon likes to change the organization of things once in a while. So I've had features down in the secondary criteria area as well.
No, that's good because people who want a basement.
Right, exactly. So you go in and property under contract and click must not have. So that's going to exclude all the properties that are listed as active and property under contract. And as you can see, we've already taken out a few. Our number went down. Any questions about that?
Can
And
you do that one more time?
yeah, absolutely. So style, townhome features. Here, you can also type it in here if you know that you don't want property under contract. You can type in property under contract here. So,
Gotcha.
or you can click the little magnifying glass. Special market conditions is the first section, and you click must not have. You can also say must have one or more, which is a great one for some people say I really have to have a finished basement. So must have one or more finished area, rec room, is usually the two.
What's sub basement?
I have no idea what sub basement is. So don't worry about it. Okay. I'm going to cancel out of that because we already had saved what we wanted. All right. And we can go back in and look. So now, say this client is pretty open. They just want a townhome. They don't really care about the size. So all these are really going to match their criteria, and they don't care if it has a garage or not. Okay. But you can also exclude by number of garages. Number of garage spaces. If they need to have at least one, you can do minimum of one. You can do minimum of two, obviously, and that knocks it down significantly. You can also, some people really want young homes. Search by age. Okay. Total taxes is another nice one. In this area, in Saratoga County, this search that we're doing right now, it's going to be less applicable. But say they're looking for something in Troy, but they really can't go above a certain tax amount. Total taxes, you can search by minimum or maximum amount of taxes. Always give it about a $500 bump, because some agents input the taxes with star and some input without. Everybody here should be inputting the taxes for their listings without star, because that no longer carries over and it makes a big deal on a buyer's ability to qualify for the house. So please make sure you're always pulling the tax bills for your listings and inputting that properly. But for your searching, I always give it about a $500 bump to accommodate, with star, without star. Acres if you need to. Okay. So this is our search for this buyer. I think we've gone through enough now. So now we want to start filtering through. My suggestion is, even if you're going to set them up on automatic notifications, the first time you meet a client, the first time they tell you their criteria, go through the initial search results, and I want you to cherry pick. Because, say, they're really not looking for a fixer-upper. Granted, this is the lowest one, and it is listed as an excellent condition. There's no pictures of the inside, so we really can't verify that. But you never want to send them like something that really doesn't match their criteria as the first house that you send them. Go through and cherry pick. Okay. So scroll through it. There's no pictures here to look at, but 2-bed, 1-bath. This client said, listen, I'm open to anything. Maybe they're single. Maybe they really are minimalist and don't need a whole lot of space. So we're going to leave that in there because it looks like a good location. They said they wanted to be in Clifton Park. It's right off exit 9 and it's right on budget. Okay. This one is in Knox Woods, nice neighborhood. There's no garage. So I always scroll through the pictures. Let's make sure it looks pretty, doesn't have any glaring problems. Okay, and we say, you know what, they said a garage would be really nice. It wasn't necessary. So with this being a 2-bed, 2.5 bath though, we're gonna say, all right, we'll leave it even though it doesn't have a garage, right? Another one in that same location, right on budget, low taxes. So again, no pictures. That's odd. Don't normally have that many with no pictures. Check it, move on. This one has a lot of pictures. 2 beds, 1.5 baths. Okay, so we're gonna go again. I scroll through all of them the first time, and sometimes it takes a while. And my husband's sitting there like, Tori, why are you looking at all of these houses? Because you want to make sure the first time you send somebody listings, it is stuff that meets their criteria. The last thing you want is for them to say, man, she sent me this house and I told her that, I really didn't want a house that didn't have a fireplace. So you just want to make sure that you listen to their needs, you listen to their requests, and everything you send them the first time is exactly what they asked for. When things pop up on automatic searches, if it doesn't meet exactly their criteria and they say, hey, I told you I didn't want something with XYZ, you can say, I just wanted to keep the search broad for you because you never know. And it's really hard since agents input these listings. Sometimes they're imperfect. I didn't want to miss anything for you. So you might need to weed through a couple that are imperfect, but just know I'm sending you everything that could possibly match your criteria. Okay. So we don't have to go through and look at all those. So let's say we click all these, we scrolled through, and these are all the ones that we want to send. Okay. So now we're going to hit, before we do that, one thing that you always have to do in order to save the actual search. Okay. You need to be on this page, which is the criteria page. Save search as. So I usually name my searches by the client. So let's call this John Doe. This is the first time I've ever done a search for John Doe. Okay. So I click over here and go into contact, and I'm going to be able to assign it to a contact. If John Doe's already in there and this is a new search for him, you just type in John Doe, and his name might pop up, and then you click on the name to add it. Or this is the first time that John Doe is set up on a search. His email, make it, and he's me. Hit save. It will pop in here. He's now assigned to a contact, and then you can hit save and notify. That's going to bring you right into the contact and into the place where you can do your automatic searching. I'm going to go through that in just a second. What I'm going to do first is all these checked ones these are the ones that we want to send him now, right? Hit checked. So it organizes them all this way. To email, to get the link to those listings, click in here. Make sure that the 7 selected or the amount selected, it doesn't say current listing or all listings. You want the selected ones. You always, always, always want to send the buyers with unbranded virtual tour. Why? You want to send the buyer's report. That's got all the information that they're going to be interested in. It's got the little map that pops up next to it. It's got it's got a link to the virtual tour at the bottom, but that virtual tour is not going to be branded to the listing agent. The last thing you want, especially if you haven't exactly established the full rapport with this client yet, is sending them all the listing agent's contact information. They decide they fall in love with something and they end up contacting the listing agent and circumventing you because they're new to the process and they just don't know any better, right? They didn't quite understand what was going on. So if you send the unbranded virtual tour, that means that they'll get the virtual tour if it's there, but it won't be branded to the listing agent. It'll just be a link to the photos, which is what you want to send them. Okay. Never send the full agent report. That has really protected information that should be kept to just realtors. That'll have the number of days on market, when it's expiring, the listing agent's contact information, the seller's name and information sometimes, and that's not what we want to be sending buyer clients, okay? So always the buyers with unbranded virtual tour. If you are sending a listing to a lead that, say a lead comes in, they call you off the sign, right? Off of your sign on your listing. Then you can send the buyers with branded virtual tour, right? Because then it's going to be branded to you. It's going to be your information. And you want them to see all that because maybe they're not working with or they shouldn't be working with an agent yet if you're sending them information. So they're not working with an agent and you want to send that. Then you can send it with the branded. But always, for most scenarios, unbranded virtual tour. Click add, email, and then you're going to get this link. You can type the email right from here. So you can do Tori.Romeo and you can send John Doe his emails. You can blind carbon copy yourself so you get a copy of it. I always like to do that as well. Your home search. And then you can say your email. We use Gemelius. So Gemelius in our Google Chrome, in our Gmail, does really nice things like track emails. So usually I don't send anything directly from Paragon anymore because I like to get that tracking information. So in that case, I'll just cut and paste this this link, draft my email in our Romeo Team Realty email and send it out. And then I can see if and when the buyer open the email, how many times they open the email, and it shows me if they've clicked on the link. So it's a lot more information. Eventually, when we get the new website, all of this is going to be integrated into the website and it'll all be in one place for us. So we'll be able to have all that information. But for now, drafting here is fine. So we're going to say, hi, John. It was so nice to meet you today. Did a search according to what we discussed. And I always try and summarize the search for him. I looked for townhomes in Clifton Park with at least 2 beds, 1 bath, and up to $250,000. I kept in properties without a garage just in case they were perfect for you. Here's what I found. Then you've got your link. Take a look and let me know ASAP if you like to view in person. Just let me know at any time if you want to change your criteria. And I'd be happy to adjust. I look forward to working with and helping you on your home search. Best. Okay, and if you've set up Paragon correctly, your information will be branded at the bottom. Format everything as you wish. Proofread, and then you can go ahead and send. And that'll send John the link. It'll blind carbon copy you. And that will be the first set of listings. Now remember though, we haven't set them up on auto notify. So even though you've done that, doesn't mean that they're going to be getting anything new that comes onto the market, right? So now we need to go back and do that. It's okay. More than one of you have done that. I did that when I first started too. So how do we do that? Now we go back into the contact. Okay, so remember when we saved and notified, it brought us to this screen. This is John Doe's contact. This is his buyer activity searches, and you can add up to 3 searches per contact. So say John is interested in townhomes, maybe he's also interested in condos, but only if they have a garage, or he's interested in, single family homes, only if they're under a quarter of an acre. It's easier to do a couple different searches than try and encompass that all in one. And so you can attach up to 3 different searches per contact. Notification options. There's 2 options that we use. Okay. You can either set them up on email notifications or a collaboration center with auto notify. Both have their place and time. I find that some people who are not obsessively searching and they just want to be notified of new listings, they're not on Zillow or Trulia every day, or Realtor.com every day looking for things. They want the information, they want it in the email, and they don't really want to see anything else. They just want it as it comes up. They're motivated, they're serious, so they're not saving things in groups and looking forever. So they might be, or again, some of the generations that maybe aren't as tech savvy. They don't want something super fancy. They just want to get the information. Email notifications would be the best way, because then they'll just get the listing when it appears or if it drops in price, and they'll let you know if they want to see it. They're not doing a whole lot of searching on their own. So this is the default. Okay, I've set this up already to have a default message. You do that in your preferences. Okay. I always leave real estate listing notification for John Doe, and I leave the client name in there. If you've named your client something in Paragon that is not their last name, because maybe you don't know it, please make sure you edit that. Don't leave it, John Tallman from Wheatfield or something like that. Make sure that it's an appropriate last name, or edit this here. If you don't know, maybe you put him in as John Doe, but he really has a different last name, real estate notification listing for John. Just make sure that you edit it accordingly.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it sends these things, like if say 3 properties hit the market the same day,
Mm-hmm.
they get a listing, but it's like the email is strange. It's one email, but it's like 3 pull downs.
It's only if either the same agent or 2 agents happen to update something or send something live at the same exact time.
Because I have it, I don't know, it gets sent, for some reason it gets sent at the same time every day.
So there's a setting for that. So that's the setting right here. Notify either immediately, which is when the moment that agent hits save in the MLS, it's going to get sent out. So whether it's a new listing or it's a price drop, it'll get sent out immediately. Sometimes timing wise, it does happen at the same time and it'll group it in the same email. Or you can do recurring, and then you can set the time frame. I had a client recently who said, listen, Tori, I'm getting a ton of listings and this is great, but I really don't need them throughout the day. Can you please send me can they group them once every day? So every one day and daily. And you can set the time that it gets sent at 6 p.m. every day, and it'll send it anything that's changed that day in that one email. And it'll get sent once a day at the time that you set. And again, you can set that weekly, monthly. If they're, sometimes if you have sellers, right? Maybe you did a search for a seller because they're keeping an eye on their neighborhood. They want to see how things are selling. You can set them up on a monthly. And you can do the first Sunday of every month, and they'll get an email from you with all the active, sold, and pending listings in their neighborhood. So that feature is really nice for sellers. But we're going to say that this buyer wants to be notified immediately. They're really active. They're really interested. And I want to be notified of when new listings come on for them, because we know in this market we need to get there within 24 hours. Otherwise, it's going to be gone. If they're more relaxed, or you think they're not as serious, you can always take yourself off of blind carbon copy. It depends on how strongly you want to be involved in their process at this stage in the game. Never leave it 6 per page. You always want to, again, switch this drop down to buyers with unbranded virtual tour. Type, so you can get new matches only, price changes on new matches, open house notifications, status changes. So if something goes pending, you can have it send an additional email to them saying, hey, this went pending. So you have those options, but
what did you click on to get that?
The little magnifying glass, anytime you click the little magnifying glass, it'll show you all of the options within that form field.
Okay.
Now, if they have a spouse, okay, you can add their email so that they're notified each time as well. And you don't have to say them as a contact if you don't want to, or if, they do. I think I have one that's called Jackie Tester. Yep. If you have them saved, you can add them there, or you can just add their email address and it'll CC them every time. You can also, in the contact, list somebody as a spouse, and if you click notify spouse or secondary, it'll email it to them as well. Then always edit the message. Okay, I try and make it as personalized as possible. So, hey, John, my default is a new property matching your criteria has appeared on the market or one has changed its price. Take a look and please contact me at your earliest convenience to schedule a showing if you are interested. And then your signature will automatically be appended to the bottom. When you click OK, that's now live. Okay, now you'll see email notification is checked. That means that anytime something changes its price or comes on the market, they're going to get that email. If you ever want to edit that notification. So say John contacts me and he says, hey, I didn't tell you, but I have a girlfriend who's looking with me and I really want her notified on those emails. Just go back in and I'll back to how I got there. Underneath his name, this little email notification pops up. Highlight that email notification. This screen will pop up.
So I don't have that email notification tab.
Did you save it? So did you hit OK on the email? You edited the email?
Yeah, originally a long time ago.
All right, I'll come back to you on that so that I can
Okay.
see what you're looking at, okay?
Yeah.
Just write that question down so I don't forget. But again, edit notification, type in the email, hit OK, and that's how you can edit the notification. By highlighting the search itself, you can edit the search.
By just adding her email into that screen, she'll automatically be on each one. You don't have to add her in as a contact underneath.
Correct.
Okay.
As long as that email notification template, this right here, is how every email is going to show up.
Okay.
So if you add a CC here or you take out yourself as a blind carbon copy, it'll be that way for every notification. Good question. Okay. All right, let's go back and go over the other option. Okay. The Collaboration Center with Auto Notify. This is a really powerful tool. Not enough people use it. When we upgrade to the new website, we are going to get this feature as well. It'll just be directed to our website instead of Paragon. Okay. We have a really nice, for what it's worth, a really great MLS, and it gives us a lot of tools and a lot of resources. So the fact that this is even here is pretty awesome. But so let's look at that. The Collaboration Center with Auto Notify. What this is going to do is set up a website branded to you, directly connected to the multiple listing service. And the client can save their favorites. They can save possibles. They can reject listings. They can comment back and forth on them to you. They can request a showing directly and it goes to you. This here, last accessed by the client, this will update and let you know how often the client is accessing the website, how, and it'll say the date and the timestamp of the last time that they did it. It gives you a lot of power. So somebody, again, especially the younger generations who are looking on their own anyway, and we should encourage that. We can encourage that because the reality is, and I think some of you have heard me say this, that you're going to get three things, right? There's three things that you can get in a home search: price, location, and amenities. And whether those amenities are condition of the home or land or whatever it is. You have three categories. Every buyer is going to get two of those three. They're never going to get all three. They're going to compromise somewhere. Okay. Some of them will compromise on price. They'll tell you, you know what, Tori, we've been seeing everything out there in our price range. We really got to bump it up another 25 grand and I think we'll be happy. They may compromise on the location and say, I really want it to be within a 20-minute commute to work, but I think if we bump it up to 30 minutes, I'm going to find what I'm looking for. Or I really wanted to be in a neighborhood, but maybe this area over here that's a little bit busier might be okay for me. Or they'll compromise on the amenities. They'll choose a fixer-upper instead of a brand new move-in ready home, or they'll drop that half bath requirement, and all of a sudden the world is their oyster. They're going to compromise on one of them. So what I tell my clients is, listen, and I tell them exactly that. You're going to get price, location, and amenities. You're more than likely going to have to compromise, and you'll get two of the three. It's not up to me to tell you what to compromise on. That's your job. So go ahead and look online. Go ahead and look at Zillow or set them up with this website. Go ahead and search on my website. It's going to be the most up-to-date thing. It's going to be directly connected to the MLS, and play with it. Maybe you're going to decide to drop that half bath. Maybe you're going to decide to, what happens if I bump my price up a little bit? Because the amount of times that I find the home versus you is probably about 50-50. Okay? Because at the end of the day, you're going to decide what you compromise on. I'm going to search for exactly what you told me to search for.
Do you think that's because of the state of the market, or do you think that's always, all the time,
Always.
there's going to be some sort of compromise?
If you take most sales or business courses, and they'll tell you the same thing. Just consumer behavior, you're going to end up compromising somewhere. It's very rare that somebody, unless their budget is infinite, most people end up compromising somewhere. Okay? Wouldn't it be nice? So when you're setting up this website, the Collaboration Center, a few things that you want to look at. Notification settings. So this is going to be the settings for when they get notified about a new property. So just like that email notification, this kind of sets up the notification and what it looks like for the Collaboration Center. You can customize the message body, which you can see it already has our default message in here. Again, new price change, new match, new comment. So new comment means, like I said, and I'll show you in a minute what the website looks like. If they comment on something and then say, I comment back, it'll let them know about it. It'll let them know, hey, your agent has commented back. Immediately or recurring. 2, I usually take myself off of blind carbon copy for this, because otherwise you get notified twice. If you get notified by this, you'll see what the client sees, which can be nice. But you're also going to get an agent notification, or you can do vice versa. You can get what the client sees, and then you can take yourself off of notifications. Or what I usually do is I send myself the agent notification, and I take myself off of blank carbon copy. If you want both, by all means, have at it. I like to minimize what's going into my inbox, as Kayla will tell you. So you set this up the way that you want it. And as soon as you're satisfied, click OK. And again, anytime you want to change that, you can. Your Collaboration Center preferences, this is set up in your MLS preferences as well. All right. And this is what shows on the Collaboration Center. So you'll see when we take a look at the site. But your email address, display as a web page. You can have a story video. Any of your social media links. You can have a personalized video if you want. If you're really tech savvy and you want to do a little video, an introductory video, like, hey, John, thanks so much for working with me. Take a look through your website and, let me know if you need anything. You can put that link in there and it'll always be at the top of the website. I keep it pretty simple. So once your setup is complete, you can send the link. We don't want to do that yet. You always want to view it, because remember how we only showed John, out of all the properties, we only sent him 7. That's not what happens when you do the Collaboration Center. Okay. So if you do the Collaboration Center, you always want to click View Site and set up the site for him. Okay. Because this, as you can see now, has all 17 properties. And say we really don't want to show him those 17 properties. We only want to show him the 7. So the 7 that we had were Tallowood, Freeman's Way, Tallowood, Tecawatha, Lexington, Cypress, and Point West, right? So, and I thought we had Washington Lane. No, we decided against Washington Lane. So here's where you can organize them. Hit reject. 23B, Point West, we kept. 40 Old Coach, we didn't. 18 Paddle Wheel, we didn't. Carriage Road, we didn't. 39 Tekawatha, we kept. Freeman's Way, we kept. 83 Tallowood, we kept. 85, we kept. Barkwood, we didn't. So we hit reject. Cypress Point, we kept. We did not on Willard. We did not on Mohawk. We did not on Lexington. Or did we? No, we did on Lexington. Oops. So undo that. Okay. So now, if we refresh this, you'll see it's only the 7 that we want them to see. The rest are labeled in the rejected folder. Now, if any of those rejected, say we rejected some of them because, oh my gosh, this is like so overpriced. Sometimes as I'm scrolling through listings, I'll see some really nice ones. And then all of a sudden you'll get to one of the highest priced listings and you're like, holy cow, these people really need to update. Like they're way overpriced. I'm not going to send them one for 200,000 when there was one for 165 that was way nicer. So you reject it. Now, if that one, say, drops by 25,000, it'll pop back up in the undecided section and they'll be able to accept or reject it at their leisure when that happens. So you don't have to worry. Just because you reject it doesn't mean it's rejected in perpetuity.
Will the client be able to see those rejected?
Yep, it'll be shown right here. Okay. Now, this is what will get sent to the client. You'll see up at the top, it's branded to you. Welcome to your collaboration center, John Doe. It's going to show, and this is directly connected to the MLS. It's really, really powerful. So it'll have recent sales. So it'll show them all the sold so they can research whether or not their price range is appropriate. It'll show them all the communications. They can create custom folders. The defaults are favorites, possibles, and rejected. This is their homepage. The other really neat thing they can do their own property searches here, which is way more powerful than having them search on Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com. And it's updated in real time. And the moment something's marked pending, it's pending in here. The moment, just as if it were you doing the search. So the really nice thing about this is it will be much more accurate searching, and you're sending them to something that's branded with you every single time. They can save their own searches, and then it'll show up in their My Searches or their saved folder. So this is a really cool tool to use. And again, you're going to be able to tell every single time these guys have accessed this website. So it gives you a lot of oversight into the process. However, I will say that this can get overwhelming for some buyers. So you really have to get to know your buyer and figure out what it is that they want. Are they going to be the type that really they just want to see it when it happens and they'll tell you if they want it? Or are they the type that are really type A and they're really into doing their own searches and you want to keep the control in your hands and not send them to some third-party site where they may contact a Zillow agent and accidentally, go under contract with somebody else because they don't understand the process, which shouldn't be happening if we're explaining our jobs properly. But
what's the agent picks field? Because if they're putting a heart on something, puts it to favorites, but not necessarily agent picks.
So the agent pick, you can set up your own agent picks. We can do training on that another day, as to how to get your agent picks in there. And what that would mean is basically if you decide, all right, listen, I've been searching with these people for 3 months. I've shown them 20 houses. They're not finding what they want and they're refusing to think outside of the box. So then you decide to think outside of the box for them and you want to send them a few that, you really like. You can put them in an agent pick, or you can say, here are the ones that you might like. Here are my favorites though. Usually I don't get to the point where we need that, but it is an option. We can go over how to do that another time because that's a little bit more in depth.
What does the mobile version of this look like?
Great question. I'm not going to be able to show it to you on this, so I'll show you when we're offline because I'm on a desktop, so I won't be able to in the video and it would look silly. But I will show you. It's pretty good, and they can toggle back and forth between the desktop view and the mobile view.
Oh, good. Okay, good. All right, awesome.
So when we've set up that site and we've selected our things, sometimes if I know I'm going to set them up on the website, I'll take that link that we got from here, the unbranded virtual tour. So I'll cut that link. I'll go in, then we're going to set send link. This is the draft email, and we'll show you a preview. And I might send like, hey, here's search results. Please send something a little bit more robust like the last time. But we're just going to do this quickly. You'll have to actually copy and paste the whole link. Sometimes they don't like to actually copy the link. But you paste that actual link in there, and then you can tell them a little bit about their site. I hope you like the collaboration center. Give you the power to search own, save your favorites, and comment with me. Please let me know if you have any trouble. Best Tori. And then to preview what that looks like when they receive it, because it has a lot of info. It's a really nice mobile-friendly version. And it'll show them. There were 14 matches found. Remember, that's in our initial search. We've organized them for them. So sometimes it's good to update that. There were 14 total found, but some of them really didn't match your search criteria. So they're in the rejected folder. If you're curious, feel free to take a look in there. Undecided listing. And it explains to them what their collaboration center is and how to do it. Custom folders, compare listings. They can compare different listings from their end. It's pretty cool. And they'll create a password, and it shows them what their username is. And this is the email that gets sent to them. So that's the preview. And then you can hit send, and it'll send off to them just like that. Any questions? Because we are pretty much through the buyer end of the searching. So I kind of want to go back to see, does anybody have any questions about particular criteria and what I search by? You know, you were struggling with, we can go and do a little bit of a land listing search real quick. But any other in like regular single family homes, Tori, I couldn't find this. My general rule of thumb is keep it as broad as humanly possible. Okay, because again, agents input these listings, agents make mistakes. I don't normally like to exclude, places without basements because a raised ranch, half the agents put in that raised ranches have a full basement and a finished basement. Half the agents put in that it's on a slab and have none. So keep that in mind when you're doing your search and just prepare your clients for that and tell them, people input these listings, people are human and they make mistakes. So I try and keep your search as broad as possible. But if you're really feeling like we need to we're weeding through too many, let me know and I'll adjust it. I'd rather you get something that you don't want than for you to miss the perfect house that was input improperly. The features tab, and that's where I try and be really careful about stuff like that. So in there, because there's so much information that, again, people put in, people don't put in. We have a little bit of lag time right now. So just be aware of that. Any other questions on searching? It's roughly the same for two families. Okay. And again, you can customize this field as much as you want. They'll be organized in a little bit different. For example, school district and two families are down here in the secondary criteria. So just play around with that. But the search is exactly the same, and setting them up and saving them are exactly the same. If you have somebody that's looking for multifamilies, more than one unit, the multifamily search, we are really not commercial agents. Our company doesn't do commercial properties. Our MLS isn't built for commercial properties. So the majority of commercial properties are not in here. So you really shouldn't be using commercial, industrial, or the multi class, which would be zoned commercial or industrial. If you want to look up something for somebody real quickly as a favor, you can do that. But if you have a real commercial client, you should let me know and we should refer it out to some of our partner agents that work in the Capital District with commercial stuff. So I'm not going to go through those. Residential rentals, again, it looks very similar. The criteria isn't as broad. You can't search for things like they want a house with a basement, or things like that. You can do bedrooms. You can do, I believe you can do bathrooms, but you really don't get off-street parking is a big one for rentals.
Is the price then monthly?
Yes, this is a monthly price. So if they're looking up to 1,800 a month, you have to edit here. Good question. All right, and then vacant land, because I know some of you asked about vacant land. Vacant land is tough. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It's less common. There's again very distinct differences between the way that agents input vacant land listings, how much information they have. But generally, I had a client once that was looking for vacant land up to 75,000 in, they really wanted to be in East Greenbush, but they were pretty open, right? So we can look in Rensselaer County. Okay, and they wanted at least 3 acres because they had horses, and most municipalities state that in order to have horses or any sort of agriculture, you need to have at least 3 acres. So that brings up 71. So we then can narrow it down. We can do it by zip code, which I'm going to say zip code, and then I'm not going to know the zip code for East Greenbush off the top of my head. Thank you.
I think.
Well, we'll try it. 12061. There's one. Luther Road. Funny. That is definitely East Greenbush. So there's one here. So let's increase it. Let's say they were interested
So
up to 150.
0 Luther Road. Does that mean that it's probably a development and there's nothing there yet?
Good question.
Could 0?
No.
Okay.
0 means that it's designated on the road, but it has yet to be given an address. So what will be important in this scenario is the tax record. So let's look at it. 0 Luther Road, there'll be directions to it if the agent has input it properly. You can see it's 10 acres. They'll have the tax amount. This one has a lot of information available, which is really nice. They don't give it to you in the documents section, but it says documents available, survey, approved building lot, approved septic, site plan, and percolation test. That's a lot of information for a land listing. The fact that the seller has done all those makes that a much more valuable property because a buyer knows what they're buying when they purchase it. So keep in mind that when you're doing vacant land, typically all inspections are still the responsibility of the buyer. If the seller just has the lot, but they don't know if it's approved for a building, they don't know if you can put a septic there or what kind of septic, the buyer has to do all of that testing. And there's a separate document for that we'll go over in the contract section that talks about that. Okay. And so if we pull up the tax record, this is where it's going to be a little complicated. Oh, good. Well, maybe not. So the reason I'm going maybe not is because it says 75 Morgan Road, which is here. but this was 00 Luther Road. So what we have to do is go back in here and double check the tax ID number, which they said was 156.617.111. And this is the proper one. So this would be a scenario where you're going to want to talk to the listing agent. Say, hey, when I pull up the tax record, it's showing me Morgan Road. Is the property on Luther Road or is the property on Morgan Road? It's possible that, and this happened with my grandmother's property, for instance, because there's a corner here. It's possible, say at one point, these three parcels were all together, or maybe these two parcels were together. So then it was subdivided. And when it was subdivided, this parcel wasn't necessarily given access or easement access to Morgan Road. So that's why the address is still Luther, even though there's no way for this property to access Luther Road anymore. It's going to be really important in that sense to look at the survey. It's going to be really important to find out more information from the listing agent as to why this tax ID number is pointing to a property on Morgan Road that doesn't have clear right-of-way access to Luther Road when it's listed as Luther. This is why vacant land is a lot more complicated. I do have experience with it. You are lucky in that your broker's husband is also a land developer. He's a civil engineer. So if you have any of these questions, this is what he does. So we have great resources to use. And then everything else is pretty much the same. Generally, because vacant land is so few and far between, you're going to want to search by sub area. This is where sub area is a bit better to search by. You're going to want to search by zip code. You're going to want to search. You can still search by school district if somebody wants to build their dream home in their designated school district. It's just going to be a lot harder to find what people are looking for. Keep in mind that financing is different for vacant land. There's one or two banks that will finance vacant land without building, but again, you have to be super well qualified. You usually need 15% plus down, and 15 would be the minimum. And if they're looking for something with 120 acres, that's going to be up in the 200, 300,000 in most places in the capital district. And that's a lot to qualify for with that much money down on a vacant parcel. And then they're going to need to be able to build. So keep all that in mind. If you do have a client that's looking for vacant land that is looking to build, definitely keep me in the loop on that, and we can walk through it together until you've had a few of those under your belts.
Just out of curiosity, which lenders are the ones that will finance?
National Bank of Coxsackie, I believe, will do it. And some of the mortgage brokers. Homestead might. It's
I don't think Homestead does.
not Homestead. I know National Bank of Coxsackie will. The credit unions usually don't. Some of the portfolio lenders will.
I was gonna say Sunmark will, but only if you're building on it.
Same thing
Because
as
then
FQ.
they'll-
Yeah. So then the credit unions, and that's different than it was like 3 years ago. So things are starting to change because development is becoming much more popular nowadays with how crazy the market has gotten. So it's always good. You always ask, re-ask, because it'll change from year to year.
And
And
there was actually a question that somebody put in the Capital Region of Realtors or whatever
Yeah.
that Facebook
The
group
Facebook
was.
group is actually really informative. I added all of you to it, so hopefully you're in there, because people that do vacant land more often or development more often will have those resources at their fingertips. The ones that we know of are Sunmark right now, and that was the other one that I was thinking of, and National Bank of Coxsackie. How are we doing on buyers? Because I'd like to move on to sellers so that we're staying timely. Anybody have any further questions? So for this recording, I'm going to stop and we'll do a new recording for sellers and CMAs. So thanks, everybody. And we'll have this uploaded for you to the company YouTube page.